All right, guys, we're going to start off today with basic geometric ideas. And you guys probably remember that geometric has to do with geometry, shapes, lines, angles, that sort of thing. We're just going to go over some basic vocabulary and some examples of lines for the most part today. Some of this might be review, some of it might not be, but just kind of stick with it. So we have a table here that has our vocabulary. Then we're going to draw an example, and then we're going to write through a notation, which is how you represent it in math. So our first vocabulary word is going to be a point, which is exactly one location. A point might look like this. It's just a dot, and I'm going to use the letter A. So when you're writing a point, you just use the letter that represents that point. With me so far? Perfect. Okay, then a line is a straight path that goes on and on forever in two directions. So a line's going to look like this. It's going to have arrows on both sides, and you're going to have one point on a line, another point. There could be lots of points on this line. But the main thing you need to see is there needs to be arrows on both sides to show that it's going to keep going on and on. To write this line, we would use both letters of the points on the line, which are A and B. And you could do, you're going to draw the arrows going over the top. Or you could also do B and A with the lines going over the top. All right. The next one we have is a ray. A ray is on a line. It's a part of a line that has an endpoint and goes on in one direction but not the other. So a ray could look like this. Where it has an endpoint and another point. And you would write this as A, B, and then just one arrow going. So you'll notice like the notation, it's just using the same letters and just a shorter version of that line. The way I remember that a ray only goes one direction is I call it one-way ray because it kind of rhymes. Next we have a line segment. A line segment is part of a line that has two endpoints. So if we had an endpoint here and an endpoint here, this would be a line segment. And we write that as A, B, with just a line over the top with no arrows going in either direction. And that's just a segment means part, so this is part of a line. Then we have something called congruent line segments. Congruent, we should know by now, means equal to or similar to. So congruent line segments are just going to be line segments that have the same length. So if we had A and B here and C and D here, those are congruent. We would write them the same way that you write those, so we can cross this box out. All right, the blank of a line segment is halfway between the endpoints of a line segment. We call that the midpoint or the middle. So that would be, if I had line segment AC here, B would be my midpoint. And we just label that, since it's just a point on a line, the same way we labeled the point on our line up here. All right. And then we have a plane. It's a flat surface that extends forever in all directions. It's just a shape. We're going to write the word shape here, and there's no way to note that. All right, then we have a couple things we're going to write right here. This is also just an empty box, so we can put an X through that. We're going to write down some intersecting lines. You guys should know intersecting because of intersections in a highway or a street. It's where two streets come together. Intersecting lines are lines that meet at exactly one point. Something like that, where they only intersect at one point. Parallel lines never meet. They're always the same distance apart. Ooh. They look like that. Notice they don't get any closer together because if they got closer together, they would eventually meet. And then perpendicular lines are lines that form a 90-degree angle. Well, you'll see like this box, which is like a right angle. All right, I know I threw a lot at you in a little bit of time, and we're going to practice with those words because that's really the only good way to get used to using them. So you'll notice down here you have 4 questions. They're asking you to use the diagram at the right to name the following: 3 line segments, 2 parallel lines, 2 lines that intersect PS, and 2 perpendicular lines. Make sure you are using this notation to name these different types of lines. So when you're writing your 3 line segments, you're going to write the letters, and you're going to write just that straight line across the top. All right, good luck, guys. Do not worry about doing the back, just do this front side.